If you're in the market for investment-worthy bags, watches, and fine jewelry, Rebag is the answer. Rebag is a luxury resale marketplace where each piece is carefully vetted and verified by experts to ensure quality and authenticity. If you're in the market, use Rebag to buy and sell finds from the world's top brands, including Hermes, Chanel, and Cartier. Head to Rebag.com to get 10% off your first purchase with code REBAG10. Shop today at Rebag.com. That's REBAG.com and use promo code REBAG10 for 10% off your first purchase.
The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/247 and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Must be 21 plus and present in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, permitted parishes only, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700, or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York, or visit oasas.ny.gov/gambling. Standard text messaging rates apply. Sports betting is void in Georgia, Hawaii, Utah, and other states where prohibited.
Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast, GoPowerCat.com's Kansas State Athletics Show. Now, here's your host, GoPowerCat publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to this week's edition of the PowerCat Questions Podcast. I am Tim Fitzgerald, despite how I sound. A little froggy.
You got the suds.
Oh, yeah, I got a little deepness going on with the cold. Tim Fitzgerald, Zach Carlson, Ryan Gilbert, right here as we celebrate Gills' departure from the country. We finally got him to leave the country. But he's going to the Bahamas to cover basketball for you people. Boy, there's going to be an international incident. I see it coming. Gills and my friend Kelly in Vegas in one spot overseas. We're going to have to send in SEAL Team 6 to get them out because there'll be such a ruckus. We got some great questions from Wabash Station this week. We're going to do football in the first half and then basketball in the second half, or both sports are up and going. Of course, the Wildcats on the hardwood played Monday night against South Dakota State, a very good team from South Dakota State, and handled them pretty easily despite being even more shorthanded than they were the first two games. And, of course, Kansas and Kansas State tangle in the Abolition Bowl on I'm sticking with it, Zach. That's tomorrow's DD, by the way.
We'll talk about the lame trophy that is the Governor's Cup later.
And that will be in Lawrence, 6 p.m. Our Michael Goins, Cole Carmody, and Zach Carlson will be on hand for that. I'll be anchored in the studio directing traffic between the Bahamas and, of course, everyone's favorite resort town in Kansas, Lawrence.
I'm jealous of those three that they get to go to Lawrence. I'm willing to take one for the team, though, to not only go to Vegas last week and now go to the Bahamas.
You're a giver, man. You take the bad assignments. There's no doubt about it. Having to spend 3 days in Vegas with me And,
well, that was the bad part about it.
you know, and then now you get to spend time with Kelly. That she's gonna, they have gambling in the Bahamas. So
I didn't know that. Yeah,
you two will
we were
be
talking
very
about
happy.
that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Didn't know there was a casino.
Oh yeah.
I had no clue.
No clue.
Oh, yeah. We're sponsored by the Fridge Wholesale Liquor. That's no gamble. Get into the fridge as soon as you can. I mean, as soon as you can, because you want to get the liquor while it's fresh. And they have all the freshest liquor in town right there at the fridge. Best prices, best display, best help, best everything. I love the fridge. Can you do it for me?
We love the fridge.
Thank you, Mr. President. We love the fridge. We love everyone that works at the fridge except that one guy. Now I'm going to let them wonder who that one guy is. They're probably meeting about this. Who's the one guy Fitz doesn't like? I like everyone, all the mics, and, of course, Kevin. Mike's Corner of this and that in the town in which we live. On with your questions from Wabash Station with the first half question-asking duties is Ryan Gills Gilbert.
From KSU number 1, Will Howard officially owning the career touchdowns. Touchdown symbolizes everything that makes K-State so special by triumphing over adversity. Where do you rank Howard amongst the K-State QBs of all time?
This is a great question. And you know what? In fairness, we talked about this on the Insiders. We need to see the finished resume. I mean, if Will Howard, things break right, and the Big 12 doesn't change rules too many times here on their tiebreakers.
And everything plays out the way it needs to play out.
Yeah, let's just say Oklahoma and Oklahoma State both lose and K-State wins out.
Easy.
Then K-State's in. If Will Howard takes him to back-to-back Big 12 title games, let alone wins back-to-back championships, folks, I think he moves up there, in that stratosphere. He's not going to get past Bishop or Klein. They were both, Heisman Trophy finalists, but I think that puts him in the same category as El Roberson, and that's pretty amazing for a guy a lot of K-State fans were done with a few weeks ago. But his career accomplishments are pretty impressive, and now he's closing in on Will's single season touchdown record of 23 passes for 24 passes of touchdowns. Why can't I get this number right?
It's a tough number.
24. Yeah.
24.
Yeah.
You got a journalism degree, not mathematics.
Well, I had a minor in mathematics. Well, I applied it like at 2 for night in Aggieville, and I knew that meant you get 2 for 1. That's my math degree. But, yeah, I think he's got to be up there. But let's see the completed resume. Let's be honest here. Josh Freeman was an incredible quarterback. And, yeah, unfortunately for Josh, who's a great guy, he ends up with the Ron Prince asterisk next to his career. But that was who he broke the record of. And we never talk about him being in the greatest quarterbacks.
Right.
So the guy with one more touchdown is in the greatest. Let's see the complete resume here and what happens.
Well, he's going to have more than one, I think.
Yeah.
But
right now, we're not hanging a banner and putting him up on the edge of the stadium anytime. But he could get there. He really could. He's got 3 more games to play if he stays healthy as a Wildcat, maybe 4 if they get to that Big 12 championship. And he could rack up some really impressive accolades and numbers in that time.
I've always been a defender of Will Howard on this podcast, but like Fitz has said, I think you're going to need to see the completed resume. I think that you're going to need to see until the end of the season. He's very well, there's still a very good possibility, provided, like you said, the tiebreakers don't change. He can win another Big 12 championship. He could make a New Year's Six bowl game. There's so much still on the table for Will Howard. There's still maybe he comes back for another season. There's still a lot of question marks, as to what his future is going to be, with K-State. But the point stands, he has the record for passing touchdowns. He can set the single season record, and he probably will, this season. But I think you're going to need to see, and you probably need to wait a couple of years to see, how he's remembered. I think that people will look back on this time, and I think he'll be remembered in the future maybe a little more positively than what they viewed him, during his career. And I think it's just he's always had competition. He's always had Skylar Thompson, who's in the NFL. He's always had Adrian Martinez, who had a good career at Nebraska, whether Nebraska fans enjoyed that or not. Adrian Martinez was a good quarterback. And now he's got Avery Johnson, trying to take, I don't want to say take his job, but Avery Johnson is going to be a very good quarterback going forward. And I think that Avery's success probably impacts how people will view Will in this time period of his career. I think Will Howard has had a great career at K-State, and he should be better rewarded and better treated by the fans for how well he's played when he's played well. And really, when you look at the times he hasn't played well, it's about where you might expect K-State to be year in, year out. That 8-4, 8-5 type of season. That's what the baseline expectations are for K-State football. So, you can get upset. He didn't have a good game one time or, whatever else. Or Avery had a really good game at Texas Tech. It doesn't stop the fact that Will Howard has played great football more often than not for the Wildcats.
Agreed. Gilbert, do you have
guys
opinions?
nailed it. Other than just letting it marinate, I don't have much else to add. Yeah,
I'm really curious to see, down the road where we regard him. And again, you've got to play through the season and see what happens. If they go to a bowl game and they lose in Lawrence, they lose in a bowl game, whether or not it's Will Howard related, it will impact his legacy. But let's point out, he is the third quarterback at Kansas State to win a Big 12 title, and the other two are in the ring. They're up there with Al and Colin, so that's something to be said. But let's just see how the season ends and what happens. And I'm still optimistic that the door might open for Kansas State, and they might get a chance to play in Arlington.
We do have to wait and see with Howard, but to answer the question, I'd go in that 5 to 10 range. He's not top 5, but he's got to be in the top 10.
Ooh. Oh, absolutely.
I'd put him top 5.
Well, let's talk about that real quick. We've already mentioned 3 guys, L and what's that guy's name? Michael Bishop.
Colin
Klein. And then, for us that were around, Jonathan Beasley's got to be pretty close to them. But yeah, maybe you're right.
See, I think Jonathan Beasley is going to find himself falling down the list of quarterbacks as time, and a lot of it's just time going on, and people remembering different eras of K-State football differently. But I think that when it comes down to 2-year quarterbacks over that 4-year span, you're always going to pick Michael Bishop, and I think that Jonathan Beasley's going to kind of fall off of that radar of that Snyder 1.0, what was the best moments? Right. You think Michael Bishop, you think the Big 12 championship with L.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And it depends on if we're going Snyder forward or we're going back and adding Lynn Dickey and Steve Grogan. Lynn Dickey is most certainly in the top 5 quarterbacks of all time at Kansas State. And you could make an argument Josh Freeman might be too. The guy was a first-round pick. He was in the NFL, and he put up some really big numbers for what was overall a lousy football program under Ron Prince. But it wasn't Josh Freeman's fault, per se. So it is interesting, and K-State is building up a pretty good list of quarterbacks. We didn't even talk about Jake Waters, who was vastly underappreciated and owns some K-State passing records himself. So they brought in some good ones.
It depends what you think as the best, right? With hoops, Michael Beasley is clearly the best guy to ever play in purple. But as far as the impact, the legacy that you leave on your school, guys like Poland and Barry Brown, Magruder certainly have a better impact that they left in Manhattan.
Yeah, I agree.
Did we just change subjects?
I
did. I always got to bring basketball into it.
Always got to bring it back to basketball.
So it depends on, with football, what is your definition of best?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basketball's so much easier because you have such cut and dried statistics to which to point, where football is a little more vague. Particularly when you get into, touchdown passes versus passing yardage versus overall victories and all that stuff, let alone trying to judge best offensive lineman. Is Cooper Beebe the best offensive lineman? Look at the stats. I don't know. We don't see pancakes and blocks and sacks given up and all that stuff.
Is he the best defensive lineman?
He's the best two-way offensive. No,
two-way.
He's not even the best two-way defensive lineman. That'd be Damian McIntosh, who started off on the defensive side, moved to tackle, was an outstanding tackle. Then they didn't have any defensive tackles, and they moved him to tackle, and he was, again, very good. Was it Damian McIntosh? Let's move on before I make up more names.
From O2 Cat, I'm a little surprised that the career record for passing touchdowns was only 44.
Yeah.
With modern-day offense, how long does Will's record stand?
Well, you got to understand, Bill Snyder wasn't someone to play young quarterbacks. I mean, that's the biggest deterrent here, is the fact that Michael did come in and play 2 years. Jonathan came in as a freshman, but he didn't really see the field till later in his career because of Michael. Chad May came in as a transfer. Matt Miller came in as a transfer. Jake Waters came in as a transfer. So there haven't been many four-year quarterbacks. Skylar Thompson would have been one of them, but he was so banged up throughout his career.
Yeah.
But he still has the most starts of any quarterback at K-State. So
Yeah, I wonder, he has the most starts. I wonder how many, who has the most finishes, because he didn't finish a lot of games because he took a lot of hits here. So, yeah, I agree. And I'll just be honest here. This is a record that can easily be broken in the future.
Avery already has 3.
Yeah, if you get a guy like Avery Johnson and he plays 3 more full seasons at Kansas State, he's going to destroy that record, maybe by the end of his junior year. And you think about it, the single season is 24. You put 2 seasons like that back-to-back, you own the record as of now. Crazy.
It's crazy to think about.
I agree.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's good.
From
Nanny Sassenfrass.
That's what I was going to say.
Okay.
Thank you. What preseason take has borne itself out now that the season is winding down?
What was that? What's take?
What preseason take has borne itself out now that the season
That
is
Texas
almost
Tech
done?
is awesome. Yeah, I think I called it that Texas Tech would win the Big 12 title. Moving on.
Oh yeah, I remember those preview videos. Yeah, that was a time.
I don't know. I didn't really have any hot takes on K-State football.
I think the wide receiver issues are mostly sorted out now. Then again, preseason, I think everybody was looking like, oh, look at all these great wide receivers they have, and I don't know. Maybe that was just me always being like, let's see it on the field first. But I think that they have good options now.
The optimism about the offensive line is kind of bearing itself out now as we get further down into the season. They're starting to play like they should have been playing. Mm-hmm. So I don't remember many.
Yeah, it's more turning it into the preseason takes are now becoming correct after being completely wrong at the beginning of the season. I think that's the issue.
Yeah, I guess my take that has bared itself out is that the offense will be fine without Deuce Vaughn, that they can diversify this offense and get enough from their running backs to really replicate it. You don't replicate some of the, I think I've said this before, the comfort level you have knowing that Deuce can hit the home run. It's kind of like, hey, we don't need a rally in baseball. We don't need a nickel and dime this because, Gills hits a home run every other swing. And this is a fantasy world in which I'm living right now. But it's the same kind of comfort. You've got someone that's going to bail you out if you're in a situation. And maybe they don't have that this year. Maybe that's been apparent in some of these close road games. But, yeah, I think the fact that everyone in the national media at least thought K-State would take a step back offensively without Deuce Vaughn and I pushed back on that. I thought, no, they've got some guys. And this offensive system was not about just Deuce Vaughn. And DJ Giddens, most notably, has shown that they're still effective running the ball and throwing to the running backs.
From Eric Schneid, why is the Governor's Cup the lamest rivalry trophy?
Well, now the Blue Bonnet Bowl thing with the Blue Bonnet. What is it now? TCU and Baylor has concocted the Blue Bonnet battle.
This is news to me.
So the Blue Bonnet, there used to be a great bowl game in Texas called the Blue Bonnet Bowl because it's a flower known well through Texas. But they just decided as a committee or something to rename their game the Blue Bonnet game, whatever, Blue Bonnet Showdown, Blue Bonnet Tussle. I don't even know what it is. And they did put together a truly lame trophy. It looks like someone went to the local awards plaques and said, give me your biggest thing. I mean, it's just, it's weird. But yes, I hate the Governor's Cup. I hate the fact that we play the Sunflower Showdown, which we need to get rid of, while Texas is adding another flower-based rivalry for a football game. Lame. And the fact that we invite politicians into locker rooms bugs me. It just does. It always has for a governor's cup. What'd the governor do to get this damn cup? And I'm telling you, I'm taking a stand on today's daily delivery to rename this the Abolition Bowl, and we're going to play for a replica of John Brown's rifle. And in all seriousness, we should celebrate the history of the state better and not being about sunflowers.
Counterpoint. The Orange Bowl trophy, but with sunflowers.
No, man.
It looked cool.
We just need a trophy for Farmageddon.
But when we're on the topic of lame trophies, remember when Iowa State created that weird new one where it was like a family looking over a sad pail of corn?
That was so weird.
That should be the Farmageddon trophy.
Actually, looking like, oh, crap, we live in Iowa. That was the look on their face. Yeah. So what if we just gave Gilbert to the loser of the game? And they had to babysit him for the whole year. And eventually, I mean, you'd get motivated to get rid of him. It would really add a lot of heat to this rivalry.
I actually think the problem with the Governor's Cup is it's on a pedestal. It should just be the metal cup. There should not be a wooden base with all of the scores on it.
I would agree.
Like, the scores are irrelevant. And it looks like they updated the pedestal this year.
Well, I think they ran out of room.
Okay. I mean, but, like, if you're going to run out of room, like, you're taking a whole bunch of scores off. It's not the Stanley Cup where you're taking teams off after a certain century or whatever. I think you don't need to – if you're going to either add a band or, just make it the cup. Just a silver cup.
Yeah. No.
It doesn't need a wooden pedestal.
It doesn't need any. It doesn't need the governor. It doesn't need any of that. It should be the Sunflower Cup if you're going to have the Sunflower Showdown.
Ooh, perfect.
Watch tomorrow's daily delivery, which you'll see today as you listen to this podcast. I'm getting very confused about what day it is. It'll be Wednesday's daily delivery. Zach, remind me to do that because by the end of this podcast, I'll forget my topic. I'm going to write it down. Gills, you got any thoughts on trophies?
Nope.
Because you're a trophy.
Yep. I just hope that what you said becomes a real thing.
That we give you away to the loser? Okay.
Would love to go live in Lawrence for a year. Not really.
Okay.
Last question. General Big 12 Championship tiebreaker talk.
Yes. I put this in here since there were questions and there were a lot of scenarios and it's just there's still 16,384 or something.
You said there's still 6 schools.
It's 2 to the 14th power is the number of possible outcomes of the final 14 conference games. Like to get to that's what the result. If you wanted to make a parlay, essentially, there's 16,000 parlays that exist.
Zach is a business major. He did not choose to get into this. He was sucked into this life. So Gills and I looked at each other at 2 to the 14th power and went, why is he talking Latin all of a sudden? What's this foreign language in which he speaks?
Or numbers Latin.
I don't know. But yeah, it's there's still so much, and we are stressed out about it. In fact, I just had someone at the door that interrupted the podcast, but that they asked me, it was a legitimate person. They asked me, what's going on with the tiebreakers? And it does sound like the Big 12 is going to clarify, which actually means change what the text says.
I just think it's ridiculous because when you go look at the Pac-12's tiebreaker procedures, they are well written and they are exactly what the Big 12 meant to do. I'm certain of it.
Yeah.
But for a multi-team tie, you need, like, if you're going to have a multi-team tie and if nobody played each other, you can't do a round robin. There's no round robin there. You have to move on down the road. I get that Oklahoma State beat K-State and OU.
But let me straddle this fence. Excuse me. I am greatly opposed to changing rules in midstream. That's just a bad precedent. They've never done it in K-State's advantage. Of course, the Big 12 would do it against K-State. I mean, what happened in 98 with the bowl games remains a travesty. And K-Staters, honestly, 25 years later, we're still pissed off about it. That the third-ranked team in the country played in the fifth-place bowl for the Big 12 because everyone jumped the gun and assumed that K-State would win the game, and they didn't. It would have been so easy to unwind the bowl invitations and redo them. But no, the Big 12 said, too late. We already had this in place. And now they're going to undo it. So I don't think changing rules in midstream is something this conference has done or should do. But in the other side of that is the simple truth. What does it matter if K-State and Oklahoma didn't play? Because if they had played, no matter the outcome of the game, Oklahoma State wins the round robin. There is no outcome of K-State and Oklahoma playing that changes the fact that Oak State beat them both and should win that. So I'm really split over this. It's unfair to Oklahoma State. It's a stupid rule. Someone needs to be held accountable. That honestly, a lot of smart people, including the guy to my left, looked at these rules, tiebreaker rules, and said, "What a muddled mess this is."
I don't know how you. There's like the exact same procedures exist in other conferences, and you had to go and you looked at the bullet points, and then you wrote your own. With your own language, you didn't know what you were saying. You didn't convey a clear, proper message. And I'm shocked that nobody in the conference tried running a simulation based on the words that they wrote. I'm surprised that none of the schools said, hey, these are kind of weird. We should probably clarify these before we reach, the second to last week of the season when we're looking at this. But, to your point, I think if you lose against worse teams in the conference, that matters, even if you beat the other two teams you're tied with. Yep. It's not K-State and OU's fault that they beat UCF. It just isn't. And it's not K-State's fault or OU's fault that they didn't play each other this year.
This is my other problem with this is when you look at the tiebreaker of the round robin of U3 schools, you realize that there is a round robin here. And yes, Kansas State lost to some teams here, but Oklahoma State lost to UCF and got pounded. And because of that, they're at an advantage because they weren't involved in the round robin. You play one of the worst teams in the conference. You get your you-know-what handed to you. And that's a good thing in the round robin? What? That doesn't make sense to me. And that's, again, I don't know.
Let's go back to when the Big 12 was everybody played everybody with 10 teams, but they didn't have a championship game. How did you determine your champion? Well, they split the champions, but when you look at it, someone was a true champion.
You played a head-to-head.
Yeah. And it's not, even though, let's say there's two teams 8-1. 2012, K-State and OU. K-State beats OU, and then K-State loses to Baylor. But OU runs the table otherwise. Is it OU's fault that they beat KU or that they lost to K-State, but they beat Baylor and K-State lost to Baylor?
Yeah, that's crazy.
They are both champions. Yeah. As painful as it might be to admit that, K-State and OU split the championship in 2012.
I don't think they did they? I think the conference recognized Kansas State.
No, OU got a trophy. They are Big 12 champions. And it's the same thing that happened in 2014 with the college football playoff.
What a mess.
Baylor and TCU, they're both our champions. Everybody got a trophy when they split. I mean, it's just, it's what happened.
Nobody got in the playoff because of it.
And nobody got in the playoff because of that. But I think that the same theory there, if you're going to give, and I think it's valid, if you beat everybody except the team you lost to, and the team that you lost to somebody else down the road that you beat, you still have a claim to that title, I think. So I think that, as much as Oklahoma State, yes, in a perfect world, they beat Oklahoma, they beat K-State, but that's not the way the conference set up their schedule this year. There is no round robin. That's how it's going to be, and they need to clarify these rules eventually, maybe not this year, at least figure out what you were trying to do and admit it. Because I think that if you come in and say, well, actually, we did mean to put in a caveat that said if of the three tied teams, if one of the teams played both of them and beat both of them, then they would win the tiebreaker. Because that's just, it's convoluted. I mean, you constructed that argument there that wouldn't have existed, and it doesn't exist in any other tiebreaker rules anywhere.
Here, I guess my advice for Gene Taylor, and I know he probably really listens to my advice, is to push back hard on this, knowing that you'll probably lose the vote. I mean, a sense of fairness will win out, and they'll vote to change it, but push back because K-State's been steamrolled in this area so many times. Young fans can't understand how many times the rules of basketball or football have been changed because of Kansas State. I mean, you go back in the day when Darrell Winston tipped in the ball and was fouled, and we didn't realize at the time, oh, that's not a shot. Tips were not a shot. So it was a non-shooting foul, and the basket didn't count. In an NCAA tournament game that K-State ended up losing, and they changed the rule the next year.
So essentially the alley-oop in semi-pro is what you're saying when he called it a foul. That was a real situation back in the 70s.
I don't remember that. And, of course, the pregame dunk that
Brian Rolder
forever changed the rules. Like Kentucky needed the advantage of shooting free throws to start the game because someone a walk-on dunked in the pregame, something never called.
Something walk-on never does anyway.
I know, and that changed the next year. And then, of course, it's literally called the K-State rule when they altered the bowl picks to have to wait till after the championship games played because of what happened in 98.
I'll tell you what, if Michigan is willing to sue in federal court over a coach's suspension, I think that K-State, and I'm serious, if the Big 12 changes their tiebreaker rules to anything other than clarify exactly how we expect them to be at the moment, I think K-State should sue.
And find a K-State judge.
Find a K-State judge.
Like Michigan, find
yes.
a Michigan judge. Jeez. Yes. So that's it for the first half of the Power Cat Questions podcast. A whole lot of basketball waits on the other side. Ryan Gilbert won't shut up. It'll be glorious. I'll just sit here and cough. Mostly over all of his important topics, all of his thoughts. I'll just cough. We'll be back.
GoPowerCat.com's PowerCat podcast continues after this short break.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify is here to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 15% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
Welcome back to the PowerCat podcast.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Power Cat Questions podcast. Fitz, Zach, Gills, right here with two dogs that interrupted the first half with a lot of barking. I mean, a lot of barking. They knew someone was at the door. We're in the basement in the studio, and none of us knew someone was at the door. And yet, there was someone at the door. They're crazy.
I sensed at the moment the doorbell rang that someone was at the door.
I know to hear it. We're sponsored by The Fridge. They're like the friendly person ringing your doorbell, but they have alcohol. I don't even know what that means. Go to The Fridge. Make sure you stop into The Fridge. This is the corner of Claflin and Westport. I got it.
Yep.
I'm still never confident.
You still have to think about it for a couple seconds.
Every time. I really need to get the road signs in here so I can just look at it. The Fridge Wholesale Liquor have been longtime sponsors of this podcast, and we appreciate Kevin and the gang sticking with us despite all the stupidity. Speaking of stupidity, Ryan Gilbert's going to actually read the first question of this half, and then Zach will take over because Zach needs to pipe in on this first question more than the other two of us. Gills, speak now.
From the Old Barn Cat 78, if K-State wins out in football does not play in the championship game, rank what bowls they could be invited to. Zach?
So the Big 12's bowls that they have that are not New Year's Six. You have the Alamo Bowl, which theoretically should be.
There is a pecking order.
Yeah, there is a pecking order here, the bowls get a pick in order. They don't necessarily have to pick down the standings. So theoretically, the Alamo Bowl is your first pick.
Right.
They should pick the Big 12 championship game loser, provided neither are in the New Year's, or provided the loser isn't in the New Year's Six game.
Which, if it's Oklahoma, Texas, they will be.
Yeah, but also you got to think a lot of these bowl games, they would love to have Oklahoma and Texas for the last time if they're not, an SEC bowl. So you have Alamo Bowl, which is Big 12, Pac-12, which, by the way, is also going to need to find a new conference partner in the future. So maybe they team up with the SEC, maybe they team up with the Big 10. Who knows? Maybe ACC,
SWAC,
anything, But that bowl game's going to change. But the Alamo Bowl is the first bowl in the pecking order, and I think that K-State could go to the Alamo Bowl because they haven't been in 9 years. I can't believe it's been 9 years since. Well, it was the 2015 Alamo Bowl for the 2014 season.
Right.
New Year's happened.
And they were at Saturday's game.
Yeah, they were there. Pop-Tarts Bowl is the next pick in the third position. That's the game in Orlando. You play the ACC. When I say third pick, New Year's Six is first. But the game formerly known as the Tangerine Bowl in Orlando is the third pick against the ACC.
All the different names it's been?
Blockbuster was one.
Yes.
The Russell Athletic is the main one for the last however many years.
It was Camping World for a while.
Then it was Camping World, and then the Cheez-It Bowl for a couple seasons, and then
now it's the Pop-Tart Bowl. Everyone's most healthy, delicious breakfast treat.
When I think of college football prestige, I think of the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Yeah.
But in serious note, K-State's never been to that bowl game of the current lineup. The main lineup. After a certain point, you get into the Texas bowls that are just kind of the filler bowls that you're going to play your military institutions, your AAC, Mountain West, just kind of the filler pool bowls that are, Armed Forces Bowl, Serve Pro Bowl. K-State's probably not going to go to those. I feel pretty confident there.
Well, if K-State wins out, they will either be in the Alamo or the Pop-Tart. I'm confident.
I'm probably 90-95% there. I agree.
The one caveat would be, for some reason, a second team doesn't get into the New Year's Six. So I don't see a scenario where that is. And, Oklahoma State gets picked and Oklahoma gets picked to be ahead of you, and next thing you know, you're in the next bowl down. That'd be very K-State, by the way.
And like I mentioned, the bowls aren't necessarily going to pick down the standings. They're going to pick the teams that they want. And the issue with the Pop-Tarts Bowl that we've kind of discovered is it's Big 12 versus ACC. And KU has had one of their best seasons in forever.
Yep.
It's a lot of football fans that have not necessarily been to bowl games in the last decade. And they get to play an ACC school, which who else is in the ACC that might land in Orlando? You might have North Carolina, which would be a fun basketball matchup. You might have Duke, which is another fun basketball matchup. I think that when it comes to selling tickets that these bowl games want, KU, as hard as it might be for us to admit, is a very lucrative school for a bowl game that gets to play an ACC school, especially when you look at the levels of what these teams might be in the game. KU Duke in the Pop-Tarts Bowl is a very real kind of scary possibility if you're a K-State fan, because if you don't make the Alamo Bowl, which that's for the Big 12 runner-up, theoretically reserved for, who they might take OU or Texas ahead of K-State, regardless of what the records are, what the standings are. So you don't go there. If KU goes to the Pop-Tarts Bowl, well, now are you going to go back to the Texas Bowl, which you really might not want to do 2 years later?
No.
And then after that, it goes Liberty Bowl, which is where a lot of current places or a lot of projections are having K-State currently go to against Mississippi State, who just fired their coach of all teams.
Be total BS.
Which a whole nother side rant, and maybe the Big 12 should do this, but the SEC assigns their teams to bowl games, not the bowl games. So the bowl games are the ones that get there's no reason for reps to go to bowl games in the SEC really, because
they're not.
They just get. You're going Mississippi State. You're going to the Liberty Bowl.
There's no reason for reps to go anywhere.
Right.
What a cush job. Anyhow, yeah, let's get through the season and worry about this. I mean, if you take care of business, you're going to be in a good bowl. I'm going to say that Orlando sounds great, but it's not cheap to get there this time of year. And over that Christmas holiday, a lot of family vacations to Orlando. The rooms aren't cheap. The airfare is outrageous. I mean, you probably would be best off if someone organized, it's not going to be me, charter flights into Orlando. Based on what the prices are, commercial, it might actually be cheaper. Right out of MHK, right in there.
Well, you could get Allegiant to fly to their other airport in Orlando that's 30 minutes away from everything.
They have a second airport in Orlando?
Yeah, up like north, kind of towards UCF-ish. That's where Allegiant flies all their planes.
Did not know that.
Yeah. There you go.
There we go. We've talked about that. Let's move on. Zach, you got to take over.
I don't even think
That's
think you guys mentioned the actual breakdown of what needs to happen for K-State.
I said if they win.
Yeah, if they win out.
Okay.
Yeah. That was in the question. You must have just eliminated it from your brain.
Yeah, I mean,
K-State needs to win out. If K-State doesn't win out, they're
going to fall to where
they're going to fall to
Liberty, probably.
Look, this is one of those years. You look at last year. There were a lot of teams that were playing up in bowl games, and most years they probably wouldn't be in.
Right.
And this year, you're going to be playing down. There's going to be a lot of good teams playing in maybe some lesser bowls, like the Liberty. No disrespect to any of these bowls, but the Liberty Bowl, the Cactus Bowl, they're going to get some good teams this year. It's just the way it's going to play out.
I'm with you, though. I hope moving forward, when this conference realigns its bowls, and honestly, I don't think the Big 12 office, maybe it does now, appreciates how bored people get with going to the same destinations over and over. If K-State goes to Liberty Bowl, not many fans will go again.
And that's an argument to do the SEC model.
Right.
The SEC is going to prevent stuff like that.
Right.
They're not going to – they understand – the fan base and saying, hey, we can't send a team to the Liberty Bowl 3 out of 4 years in a row kind of thing. Like LSU. Or is LSU going to play in the Texas Bowl again? Probably not. No. I mean, it's just not realistic to have so few bowl games with so once the Pac-12 schools come in and and that conference collapses officially, there's going to be a lot of bowl games that need new partners.
Bring on
Holiday Bowl,
Holiday and Las Vegas Bowl,
Las Vegas
1A,
Bowl.
1B.
I'm thinking of other
LA Bowl,
something else. Just
I'm not crazy about the LA Bowl, but even you go down the list, the New Mexico Bowl is something different. And instead of having the Armed Forces or Listserv, Serve Pro,
the Sun Bowl,
anything, just freshen it up for fans. And then in the next 5-year cycle, freshen it up again. Because of what's happening with the conferences, we're going to be down to 4 Power 5s. It'd be Power 4 then. See what I did? And I just saw something. The Pac-2 is hoping to expand in a few years. They've changed the rules now where the Pac-2 won't get a spot because you got to have at least 8 schools in your conference. So that's good. But, I mean, there's going to just be so many bowls and so many overlapping. You might play the SEC in 3 different bowls and the Big Ten in 3 different bowls and the ACC in 2 different bowls. It's just the way it's going to be.
Honestly, I'd love it if the bowl committees just got together and said there are no such thing as conference affiliations with bowls. We are going to have a draft. You're going to have an order, what bowl game priority you are. And, let's say the Alamo Bowl's the best non-year 6 bowl. Let them have first pick every year of what teams they want. Make good games.
I agree.
That's really if you like bowl season and you like the bowl game structure versus, having the playoff too. And, there's been, I think you've mentioned, either just do away with it and do with playoff or commit to the bowls. I think the way you commit to the bowls is letting them pick the best teams all the way down.
I got to be honest. I don't trust the bowl committees to do the right thing, and I think they would just end up picking, whatever shiny object they can get a hold of. Because there used to be a day when fan attendance was a major part of bowl games. Selling those tickets was a major part. It made K-State very attractive. But now it's all about TV ratings and the perception of TV ratings. Excuse me, goodness. And K-State doesn't come out on top of that. They'll take the Alamo Bowl in a few years would take 6-6 Texas and 6 and I don't even know who else. But if they could just get 2 big names, they'd be happy. And,
but the good news is there's going to be other bowls that are looking at good schools that with good records that are available. They're going to say, we can make a great football game for you.
The Wamego Bowl. The Yaz Bowl. Right there in Wamego.
The Boomtown Bowl.
Oh, is that what that is? Boomtown? Because the fireworks?
Yeah, that's what they call themselves.
I like that. I like that a lot. Okay.
All right, you ready for basketball?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. From Doug 142, which newcomer has been the best surprise for you so far? And aside from the Naquan Tomlin situation, what do you expect more than what we've seen so far?
Well, the best newcomer certainly has been Day-Day Ames, but have I been surprised by that? Not at all. So
you take him over Tyler Perry?
As far as being a surprise?
Yeah, okay. I think Perry's fallen short of my expectations. Even though his numbers look good, the first 2 games, a lot of it was padded at the end of the game.
Yeah, Perry's been a great shooter, especially in the second half of those games, but his defense, finding his teammates, all that stuff, I think all needs work. So,
he's not a creator.
Absolutely not.
And that, when I watched tape of him, that was my thought. This is not a true point guard like Marquise Noel. Yeah. This is an off guard that can play point.
And me and Cole were talking last night about this. He's Nigel Pack pretty much. Spot, sharpshooter.
Yep.
You can put the ball through the net. But other than that, a lot, in my opinion, and you agree, Fitz, a lot to work on.
Yeah, but Day-Day Ames is going to be special.
Is that a Tyler, the Creator joke?
Does Fitz even know who that is?
I don't even think he got. He made a great little reference, and it didn't land.
Well, I know Tyler Dreiling very well. I didn't know he's the creator.
And so we're talking about a rapper.
Delicious beef. Yeah. Okay.
As far as a surprise, though, R.J. Jones, I did not expect him to do what he did. I know it's just one game against albeit a good South Dakota State team. I didn't expect him to play that way against some Big 12 teams. We'll see if he can replicate that moving forward. When Glover comes back, if and when Kaluma and Tomlin are back, who knows how much he even sees the court. But I was probably leaning on him redshirting this year, to be quite honest with you. And now these injuries have happened, and he's going to be needed. He's stepped up, so he's been a big surprise. As for Tomlin, who's going to step up without him? You would hope it. David Gasson would be that guy, and man, he's just kind of been this year. I know he had, I think, 11 rebounds on Monday against South Dakota State. That was solid, but when you lose your stars like that, you expected Gasson to be the guy to step up. It's been Jones, it's been Ames, and Gasson's probably been disappointing. I think he's still got a lot of room to grow.
Well, the emergence of Will McNair, who I might put up on that list too,
yes,
who has been far better than what I thought he would be. And Lord, how did this guy not play at Mississippi State? I don't understand. He's got good handles. He moves well in the post. He rebounds. To get him on the court in the shortage of having those wing guys like Kaluma and Tomlin, you move Gasson out to the wing. And that's not his thing. I know he'd like to be on the wing. I know he'd like that to be his position. But his quickness in the post made him so effective last year. He beats people up and down the court. He defends with his quickness because he doesn't have the bulk. And I think he's just kind of finding his way now. He's really kind of lost not being in the post, which is ironic because he's not a true post player.
Last year he had the foot injury to maybe give him a pass for not being all the way there. Right now, I don't know what would be holding him back. So there's no excuses there. But since we talked about the freshman, Michaela Britch deserves a mention. I think his athleticism's been on full display. But I would caution anybody listening to take a step back and look at the minutes that he's playing. Look at how raw he still is on the court. Obviously, he's got a really explosive element to his game that's only going to get better. But there's a reason he's not playing 20 minutes a game like RJ and Day did against South Dakota State. He's still got a lot of room to grow. And so while I think McCaleb's future is very bright, I wouldn't get your hopes too high on Rich for this first season in Manhattan unless these injuries continue to add up, and then maybe you're going to have to see him step up into a bigger role. But once K-State gets healthier, if these specific players can come back, I think McCaleb Rich might be, I don't know if he'll be under Manning or Finister, but he's going to be down there with them on the depth chart.
Yeah. And honestly, those two have been disappointing. I mean, I thought Manning would be more effective at this point, but he's still a redshirt freshman. And Finister, he's actually shown some flashes of being okay, but other times he just looks out of place.
To be quite honest with you, and this is just my opinion, the red shirt for Finister that they were able to get last year, I feel like they almost would have just been better off redshirting Finister this year and letting next season be his sophomore season. But what do I know?
They did get that red shirt.
They did. So right now, did I mess up? No, but you get it. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They did get the red shirt. So if they didn't, though, I feel like redshirting him now would have been just okay.
Yeah.
But with the
they need him right
injuries
now.
On top of the roster, you do need him. So I guess it did work out.
And they played Monday night with 10 players, scholarship players. So, I mean, that means when 3 of them are freshmen and 2 of them are Taj Manning and Dorian Finister, it gets kind of thin. It does.
From AWINT25, how concerning is it that Jerome Tang already feels the need to challenge his team through the media, Kaluma and McNair, to buy in and demand a higher level of play? Along with the Naquan Tomlin situation, is this something that we will continue to see until Tang has a full roster of high school players he recruited?
I don't think it's uncommon for a coach to challenge his players. Bill Snyder would do it all the time. I'm not alarmed by that at all. I had an interesting discussion with Coach Tang after the Bellarmine.
It's a Division II name, and they're somehow a Division I school.
Bellhops.
That's a good way to put it.
And he appreciated my daily delivery, talking about how K-State just wasn't good in Vegas, but this isn't a finished product. And he doesn't want a finished product right now. I mean, he wants to peak at the right time. He wants to get that head of steam going through the season like we saw last year. And when you're putting together so many pieces season to season, as he's going to do this year again and maybe next year too, you are going to have some growing pains as you try to discover yourselves. But you're right in the fact that eventually, his goal is to have veteran guards. And after next year, those guys that'll be sophomores, Ames and Jones, are going to be juniors. And you're right. And at that point, maybe there will be less transfer portal stuff, more incoming freshmen, kind of that foundation of the program you need, a portal guy in here to plug a hole there. I get that. But, he's going to challenge his team in any way possible. He's a master motivator, whether it's said in practice, said in public. He kind of pushes the buttons all over the place.
Hang on. Kleiman is certainly more optimistic than Tang. Just with talking about his players, Kleiman rarely says, quite honestly, Kleiman rarely says anything bad about his players, right? Oh, this guy's doing good with this, good with that. Tang, he's gonna say it like what's on his mind. He's gonna tell us that, right? And so whether that's good or bad, I don't care. That's not what we're here to debate. But he does do that. But with Kaluma, and I guess Kaluma specifically, I don't know if his comments might have been taken the wrong way when he said, quote unquote, buy in. It sounds like Kaluma just needs to accept being more of a team player and not try to be that superstar on the team. Because when you hear a coach say buy in, you think, oh, they're not giving it their all in practice, stuff like that.
They're not accepting the principles.
Yes. So,
but look, I'm not going to say we took it wrong, because buy in to me has a pretty clear cut meaning. I think Coach Tang just kind of misspoke in how he wanted to describe the situation. But
I don't know. So
buy in means you're not engaged. I mean and he now he's saying he is engaged. He's just not into he's trying to do too much. Trying to do too much is radically different than not buying in.
I don't know. I get what you're saying though, Gills. Like he said, buy in. It may not be, he's obviously, when he was playing well, but not being the superstar, kind of like you said, you need to buy into what we're trying to do, essentially, instead of versus not being engaged, but like, hey, here's the goal. You need to buy into this versus, doing your own thing, which, might be good. You might be playing well, but it's not necessarily good for the team, if that makes sense.
So what you just said, Tank could have said in 15, 20 seconds. I think it was Kellis that asked him what Kaluma needs to do to be more consistent. Buy-in. And then Kellis kind of went, so does that buy-in? And Tang, that was it.
That's pretty.
So I don't know if Tang misspoke or not. I really don't.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I know what buy-in means, and I feel like maybe this is a case where his words were too severe for the situation, and he's backed up with it. And Kaluma was injured, apparently a knee problem. Okay, yeah, let's see what happens in the Bahamas.
Well, even last year when he mentioned me with the starting lineup, my tweets, like I still to this day don't know if he was being snarky or sarcastic or genuine. We don't know. I don't think we don't have a good grasp of Tang's comments quite yet. Even though he's in his second year, some of the stuff that he says is kind of vague.
Yeah, you know what? That's so true. When you're around a coach for many years, you start to learn to understand their sense of humor. I told Coach Kleiman, speaking of which, after today's press conference on Tuesday, that some people took his comment about Fitz thinks it's easy to win in the Big 12. Some people took that seriously, and that's just Kleiman.
Yeah.
He goes, I do bust on you a lot. And I go, it's funny. It's sarcasm. I get it. And if you understand sarcasm, you get it. But some people are like, why is he so mean to you? He's not. It's actually the opposite.
Last question of the podcast from K-Ned. Would you rather play a legit opponent first, risking fan base angst, or nothing but one bid league opponents?
Like in basketball.
Yeah, this is a basketball question. Yes.
I don't care. Because losing to Southern Cal, they hated being called that, by the way, USC in the opener will have no bearing on K-State's selection. In fact, if USC turns out to be really good this year, which they appear to be, that will actually help, even though you lost. Basketball and football are so radically different in how the weighting of each game. I don't even think basketball games count like a third of what a football loss does. I don't. You see teams get in with, records that aren't that impressive, but they played a lot of really good teams, and they actually get credit for losing to good teams. Do you see K-State football getting credit for losing to good teams? No, you don't. If so, they would be solidly in the top 20 because they've lost to three pretty good teams, except Oklahoma State just kind of crapped all over that theory.
They're still ranked.
It's just K-State drops out of the rankings for losing at Missouri. Oklahoma State's in for getting housed at a bad UCF team. I mean, they've been bad all year. Granted, they've had the backup quarterback, but a quarterback doesn't change you from losing by 20 to winning by 42 points. I mean, they just got their ass kicked. They should be out of the rankings. They should be shamed. The mullet should be cut.
They shouldn't be in the Big 12 championship picture.
Yeah, right. Just get them out of there. So, no, I really don't care. It's one of those things like if Jerome Tang thinks challenging his team this early is a thing to do, then yeah. But I think now that he looks over it, he's like, I did kind of bite off more than I can chew, particularly because we are leaning on those freshmen. And boy, did those freshmen look overmatched in that game. And granted, they've come home and played 2 games against much lesser foes, less athletic foes, and they have looked much more comfortable and better. And I think the root cause of that is that's closer to the competition that they faced throughout their high school careers and their AAU careers. They were better than those guys. But to run in a team full of guys that are better than them was a lesson. Maybe that will be a good thing when all of a sudden a Houston or Kansas or whomever else in this conference, Texas, rolls around. They won't be surprised by the level of play. So it can cut either way. But losing to SC does not impact you at all at season's end. And unless you've had a whole bunch of other losses, and how are you pointing to that one game as the problem?
If this loss to open the season is the one that can make or break your resume to get into the NCAA tournament, then this was a massive failure of a season for K-State.
Right.
If that's what you're going to look at, right? But Tang has mentioned this. Everybody on this team has mentioned how that loss to USC has given them some stuff on film to work on and get better at. And I agree. I 100% agree. I'm in that opinion that it was a good thing. I have no problem with them doing it, even if they were to have lost it by 60 points. I don't care if it's on national television. You saw the weaknesses on your team. You get to improve upon them. And while it's tremendous to see what Day-Day Ames did against Baylor, whatever, what R.J. Jones did against, also Popeye Jones is his Google name. I'm sure you all have seen that, right?
What?
Anyways, that's a topic for it. That's your
you
daily delivery.
Yeah, on Google, when you search for R.J. Jones, it comes up as Popeye Jones.
And so on the
it's
scoreboard,
incorrect.
The stats on
But the
Google.
stats
Was
on
the guy
Google.
known as Popeye Jones actually R.J. Jones too?
No, Popeye
No.
Jones is a former something long time ago.
We have no clue.
But I mean, obviously his name wasn't really Popeye. Was his name R.J.?
I don't know.
Weird.
Anyways, I'm sorry for going down that rabbit hole, but
Well, where's Buddy Rich? Where'd Buddy Rich come from?
yeah, Buddy, I don't know where that came from at all. It's kind of been shot down though.
I know, and now
We
it's
only call
back
him
to McCaleb.
But anywho, I was saying RJ and Day-Day had tremendous games recently at home. That's great and all, but how much are they really? You're not figuring anything else about figuring. You know what I'm trying to say.
No, we don't. You're
You're not
down
figuring
that
anything
path.
else out about yourself that you didn't already know.
Right.
Those weaknesses aren't coming up against South Dakota State. They're just not. And so
But at least you get the confidence back after what happened.
confidence, all that stuff, see the ball go through the net, tremendous. But against USC, it was an ugly game, especially I think top to bottom, not just the freshmen, but everybody played poor in that game. You can only go up from there. And the only real concern of playing this game would be if you were so concerned that your locker room was so fragile that an opening night loss would rattle them. But they've been fine. They've bounced back just okay. And again, these games in the Bahamas, if K-State only wins one, if they win 0, little concerning, sure. Maybe if you lose to Georgia, that is going to be a concern. But a loss to Providence, I'm not going to shame this team for. Win or lose, it's still much a team in development at this point in the team in the season.
So did the Devil go to Georgia or to the Bahamas? I'm really confused by the lyrics now. I think the
Is this the Tyler the Creator song?
Yeah, this is it. Yeah. That's Tyler. I'm a big fan of Tyler, the cremated creator. That's it for the podcast, isn't it? Is it over? Is that it? Oh, it's so sad when it comes to an end. This was a long one.
Well, you got to remember that half of it was you were upstairs talking to your neighbor when the dogs barked.
That's not going to appear in this podcast.
I thought you were going to keep it in here.
We had Zach restart his answer. His first answer was going to be brilliant. His second one,
Thank you for listening to the Power Cat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
Matt Ryan?
Did you know the NFL playoffs on CBS stream live on Paramount Plus?
I just want a frozen fudge bar.
Bet you didn't know Super Bowl 58 was in Vegas this year.
What about a Sunday?
Super Bowl Sunday on CBS streams live on Paramount Plus.
Seriously?
Would an NFL MVP live?
Former MVP. Can we at least get a selfie?
Of course. I got your NFL playoffs on CBS and Super Bowl 58 streaming live on Paramount Plus.